was once a little curious train named Choo Choo. During the day, he worked hard, transporting people from station to station, and in the evenings, he set off on magical journeys along unknown routes. Choo Choo loved to speed up and shout toot toot with all his might, then listen to the echo of his whistle as it spread in all directions. Once, the little train set off for an unusual country, the land of dreams. The route there was not short. After finishing work, Choo Choo left the station and began his difficult journey. The first stop on his way was a dense green forest. Choo Choo rushed along the tracks, moving further and further away from the noisy city, and soon he saw tall trees with wide trunks and spreading branches in front of him. The train rushed past firs, pines, and birches, and it seemed to him that as soon as he passed by, the trees closed their branches behind him. The night forest was lit only by the stars in the sky and seemed mysterious and beautiful. Chuck heard the rustling of leaves on the trees, and it seemed as if they were talking to each other. He could even hear snippets of their conversations, and he clearly heard the trees greeting him. "Good night," they said. Finally, in the middle of the dark forest, the little train found a station. Standing there was a little gray rabbit with long ears. When the train stopped, he asked the rabbit, "What are you doing here at such a late hour?" "I can't sleep, so I decided to go to the land of dreams to find my sleep there," said the rabbit, rubbing his eyes with his fluffy paws. "I'm going there myself. Hop on, I'll give you a ride," said the train, happy to have an unexpected passenger. The rabbit sat down in the carriage and looked out the window. The train rocked on the rails, choo choo, choo choo. Listening to the clatter of the wheels, the rabbit fell asleep unnoticed, leaning against the glass. The next stop on the way to the land of dreams was near a large lake. The train rushed along the tracks and saw from afar how the water sparkled under the light of the stars. Choo Choo loved to look at the water, and his favorite moment on all his trips was crossing the bridge over the water. He always looked down and admired his reflection in the smooth surface of the water. The lake that the little train saw from afar was truly enormous. The dense forest was reflected in it, and the night water was so calm and still that it seemed as if a huge mirror had appeared on the way. Arriving at the station, the train looked around. No one was in sight, and he was about to move on, but something told him that someone must be at this stop. And he was right. As soon as he looked at the lake shore, he saw a gray mouse. She was throwing pebbles into the water and looked very upset. The train turned to her and said, "Hello, mouse, what's wrong? Why aren't you sleeping?" "I can't sleep. My dream is gone, and I can't find it anywhere. So I'm just sitting here waiting for morning to come," the mouse said in a tired voice. "I know how to help you. Get in the carriage, and I'll take you to the land of dreams. The rabbit said that you can find any dream there, and yours is probably there too. I'm going to that land right now, and I'll be happy to give you a ride. The mouse got into the carriage and the train continued on its way. Choo-choo, choo-choo, its wheels clattered. The mouse looked out the window and didn't even notice when she fell asleep as the train rocked from side to side. The last stop on the train's journey to the land of dreams was a large flower field. As soon as Choo-Choo crossed the lake, he began to notice small and large multicolored flowers here and there along his way. They grew almost everywhere, near the railroad tracks along which the train was traveling, along the forest, and it seemed to him that even the stars in the sky looked like bright yellow flowers. At first, there weren't very many flowers, but the further Chuck raced along the tracks, the more there were. Red, yellow, blue, flowers of all different shades met him on his way. Finally, he came to a large flower meadow. It seemed as if some careless artist had spilled all his paints, and they had mixed together, forming a scattering of unusual colors. The whole field was covered with flowers, and they did not end even at the horizon. The station was located in the very center of the meadow. Chuck approached it, inhaling the scent of flowers. He stopped, and as soon as the train doors opened, the little locomotive heard a buzzing sound. It was a small black and yellow bee waiting for him at the station. She addressed him herself. "Hello, where are you going?" buzzed the bee. "I'm going to the land of dreams," replied Chuck. "Please take me with you, I've always dreamed of going there," she asked. "Isn't it time for you to sleep?" asked the little train. "It's long past time, but I can't fall asleep," the bee complained. "Then get in with me, I'll be happy to take you there." The bee sat down in the last empty car and the train continued on its way. She looked out the window for a long time at the flower field rushing by. The bee remembered how she had flitted over each flower that day, collecting pollen. And the train rushed further and further away. Choo-choo, choo-choo, it swayed. The bee fell asleep quietly, nestling by the window. Chuck rode along the railroad for a long time until he saw a large red signpost. It read, "Land of Dreams." "Hooray, I've finally arrived. I must quickly tell the passengers that they will soon be able to find their dreams," he thought happily. But soon the little train realized that the rabbit, mouse, and bee had long since fallen asleep on the way. "Don't wake them, dear train," Chuck heard a voice next to him say. Chuck looked around and saw a small old man. He looked like a real thundercloud with a long gray beard. "Oh, hello, I didn't know anyone was here. My name is Snulia, I am a dream gnome. I live in this country and make sure that everyone gets their dream on time. And I am Chuck the train. I brought 3 passengers who lost their dreams and wanted to find them here. As you can see, their dreams are here. Now each of them can see their own dream. So, did I travel all this way through the Mirror Lake and the Flower Meadow for nothing? Why? You helped me a lot, and it is thanks to you that these little animals were able to fall asleep. In gratitude for your help, I want to give you a special dream. The gnome wizard snapped his fingers, and the train was home. There were no passengers left on it, and the fairy tale land of dreams was far, far away. That night, Chuck slept especially sweetly, dreaming of what he loved most in the world. He saw himself speeding up and shouting, "Toot toot," and as if by magic, an echo replied, "Toot toot toot toot," and the wheels clattered and clattered, clattered and clattered, carrying him away into the distance. Choo 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 choo. A fool bought truth at the market. A lucky purchase, no doubt about it. I asked 3 stupid questions about it and got 2 punches in return, and then I left. But it's easy to say I left. Walking with truth is not so simple. Anyone who has tried it knows. Truth is big and heavy. You can't ride it, and how far can you carry it? The fool drags his truth along, struggling. But it's a pity to throw it away. After all, he paid for it. He barely made it home alive. "Where have you been, fool?" his wife snapped at him. The fool explained everything to her as it was, but he couldn't explain one thing: what this truth was for, how to use it. Truth lies in the middle of the street, not fitting through any gate, and the fool and his wife hold a council on what to do with it, how to use it in their household. They turned it this way and that, but couldn't come up with anything. There's nowhere to even put truth. What are you going to do? There's nowhere to put truth. "Go," says the fool's wife, "sell your truth. Don't ask for much, whatever they give you is fine. It's useless anyway." The fool drags himself to the market. He stands in a prominent place and shouts, "Truth! Truth! Whoever wants truth, come on!" But no one comes to him. "Hey, people!" shouted the fool. "Take truth, I'll sell it cheap." "No," replied the people. "We don't need your truth. We have our own truth, and it wasn't bought." But then the merchant approached the fool. He circled around truth and asked, "What, boy, are you selling truth? How much are you asking for it?" "Not much, very little," rejoices the fool. "I'll give it to you for thank you." For a thank you? The merchant begins to calculate. No, that's too expensive for me. But then another merchant arrives and also begins to evaluate the price. They haggled and decided to buy one truth for two. They agreed on that. They cut truth into two pieces. They ended up with two half-truths, each lighter and more convenient than the whole. Such half-truths are simply a sight to behold. The merchants walk through the market, and everyone envies them. And then other merchants, following their example, began to craft half-truths for themselves. The merchants cut the truth and stock up on half-truths. Now it is much easier for them to talk to each other. Where they would have to say, "You're a scoundrel," they can say, "You have a difficult character." A cheeky person can be called a prankster, a deceiver, a dreamer. And even a fool will no longer be called a fool. They will say of the fool, a man who thinks for himself. That's how they cut the truth. Listen, little foxes, to a tale about grandfather's fur. Once upon a time, there lived a little fox named Tito in a cozy den near the forest, close to a lake and a waterfall. He lived with his mother and father, and he inherited a magnificent coat from his grandfather, bright, warm, and fluffy. It had black paws and ears, a white belly, and a white tip on its tail. Everything else was fiery red. He took great care of this skin, trying not to tear it and washing it often if he happened to step in mud. And then one day, when he was drying it on a branch while splashing around in the lake, a not-so-nice boy was passing by. When Tito got out of the lake, he saw that the branch was empty and the thief's tracks had long since disappeared. The fox was upset, and he was ashamed to show himself naked, with pink skin and a tail as thin as a rat's. Crying, he ran to his parents. Of course, his mother told him that she loved him just the way he was. But, as you can imagine, that didn't really comfort him. His father, however, gave him some practical advice. Go to the mountains, where his grandfather now lives, and ask if he has another skin left. Tito set off early in the morning so that no one would see him. First, he encountered a swamp. It smelled of rot, and even the mighty pines that usually grew there were thin twigs. He had to walk very carefully along the causeway and jump on the water lilies so as not to get stuck in the quagmire. The fox cub fell through more than once, but managed to get out. Sometimes he had to turn back when the path ended in a dead end. He had to sit and think about how to get out of the maze. But in the end, by evening, he stepped onto solid ground. Tito began to brush the dirt off his paws and saw that where his paws had sunk into the mud, his skin was covered with black hairs. His ears were also covered with black hair, as he had been scratching them thoughtfully with his dirty paws. Walking along the abandoned road, the fox cub met the night and decided to spend it in an old human cemetery. There it was, nearby. There were crypts, sad statues, and crooked crosses. But there was no sign of anything, neither living nor dead, on it. As soon as midnight struck, the bell rang by itself and the ghosts rose from their graves. They flocked to the fox cub, who had settled on a white stone slab, and began to tell him their eerie stories. Although Tito had learned human language, he did not understand their language, and no one on Earth knew it anymore, except for a dozen scientists. So as not to offend the ghosts, he listened to them attentively, nodded, and even allowed the spirit of a little girl to touch his tail. He knew that ghosts were safe, especially human ones, and he was not afraid of them. Nevertheless, when he woke up, wet from the morning dew, he saw white fur on his belly and the tip of his tail. Although, perhaps it had grown from the cold of the marble slab. Tito continued his journey along the road that wound its way up the mountain. At first, he climbed briskly across the twists and turns, but then, for some reason, he began to run out of breath and had to walk along the track, slowly and with frequent stops. He drank water from mountain streams, and the forest around him gave way to meadows with fragrant flowers and chirping gophers. Then the meadows disappeared, and snow-covered mountains appeared ahead. The setting sun appeared from behind the pass and illuminated Tito with its red rays. He felt warm and looked at himself. It turned out that his whole body was covered with a red fur coat again, this time his own. He looked into a frozen puddle and saw the reflection of a magnificent fox, even fluffier than before, with black paws, ears, and a beautiful tail with a white tip. Besides, the old fur coat was too big, and this one was just right. In principle, he could have returned. But his grandfather was very close by, and Tito decided to visit him. Grandfather Fox lived in a spacious cave decorated with sparkling stalactites. He had turned completely white with age, and the air below was no longer suitable for him. He greeted Tito and said that he was not upset that he had lost his old coat, and that there was no need to worry about it. Instead, he was glad that Tito had been able to get his own. Grandfather offered him a place to sleep in the cave, and the next morning he gave him some advice. You have passed 3 tests, but there are only 3 in human fairy tales. Foxes have 4. The 4th awaits you, and to pass it, remember who you really are. In the morning, Tito began to descend. It was much faster now that he knew the way and was happy to see his grandfather and his new skin. He almost slid down the serpentine road, jumped across the swamp, and was already running toward his home burrow when he suddenly met the merchant. He was wrapped in a black cloak and it was impossible to see what he looked like. "Poor little animal," said the merchant, "you have lost something important, but you don't know what it is." Cheeto was surprised. Everything seemed to be in place. 4 paws, torso, tail, black nose, ears. He carefully examined and felt himself. "I'll give you this completely free of charge. You'll find them in my bag," continued the stranger. Cheeto was already preparing to climb into the merchant's bag when he suddenly remembered one detail. He couldn't feel the opening of the bag, as he always did when climbing into a hole. Vibrissae, that's what he was missing. The fox cub jumped back just as the merchant was about to catch him and rushed into the bushes. From a safe distance, he saw the stranger throw the bag on the ground in anger and disappear into thin air. And Cheeto felt long whiskers growing on his nose, eyebrows, and shoulders, which foxes use to recognize obstacles in complete darkness and to distinguish truth from lies. Now his trials were over, and he returned home. The end. "And what happened to that boy?" asked the first fox cub. "The one who stole his grandfather's skin? He put it on and ran to the city. There, he was mistaken for a fox cub and sent to the zoo, where he still sits. He says in vain that he is a boy and that the skin is not his. People do not believe foxes." "And who is the merchant?" asked the second. "I don't know. He looks like a human, but he doesn't smell like one. His whole body is covered in black clothes, and no one knows what's underneath. If you see him, don't agree to anything he says." "Why don't humans have their own skins?" yawned a third. "They used to. But then they lost them, although that's a whole other story." "I wish my skin could be removed," said the fourth, "then I could pretend to be a boy and eat ice cream." "Ice cream is bad for foxes. Now go to sleep."